Steve Kerr is brought to us by Xfinity. Stay connected, protected, and entertained. And Steve, man, got an entertaining basketball team once again. Amazing with a little bit of defense, a little mixture of the new guys in with the old guys, and it's really starting to come together. You got to feel a lot better here on a Friday than you did back on Monday.
Yeah, winning kind of cures everything, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. The Jackie Moon era is really the moment that we're all now living in. You said that Will Ferrell reached out to you via email a while ago, and it's set up to come and happen this week. When you got that original email, does he sign it Will or Jackie?
It was Will, and I literally did not believe it. I mean, I'm just thinking this is a hoax, and when I wrote back, he said, "No, it's really me, I swear." And so it was great. I mean, I've always been a huge fan, and just to hear from him was amazing. And then we just exchanged emails and worked out this plan, and it all came together well.
Now, I'm sure you're going to point to your team's collective effort and defense as the reason why you've won a couple of games. But did that, in your mind, help let a little tension out of the room or air out of the balloon?
I think so. I think a little bit. You know, we were all feeling kind of stressed, having lost 5 in a row and whatever it was, 9 out of 11, I guess. I think sometimes it's good to just keep things loose, shake it up a little bit, and it was definitely helpful. It made everybody happy, and we were due for a win anyway. I mean, I'm not going to give Will all the credit, but I think he definitely helped.
You have a tendency, if you don't mind my extrapolating here, of wanting to react to stressful situations in a more creative and less confrontational way than a lot of coaches. And I'm wondering how you came to that, given that maybe the two most influential coaches in your life, Lute Olson and Greg Popovich, probably wouldn't have let Will Ferrell in the building. How did you come to sort of this philosophy to the point where you're going, you know what we need when we can't play defense in 11 games? We need a comedian in his mid-50s to help us out.
I think, Coach Olson definitely wouldn't have let him in. Phil Jackson might have. I'm not sure about Pop. I doubt, not into the locker room anyway. But the thing with all those coaches is they were true to themselves, and they were very creative and creative thinkers in terms of trying to get the most out of their team. And I think the best advice I got when I became a coach was just be authentic, be genuine, be real. And so it just felt like something that would be good for us. And I trusted my judgment, and I think that's the best way to answer your question. And so I just try to be myself, and that sounded like a good idea, so I did it.
Steve Kerr here with us on 95.7 The Game. So since his return, it feels like there's a quest to find and unlock the authentic Klay Thompson, and he certainly brings the right attitude, and we know this shot is going to come back because it's just that pretty. It sort of has to. He asked you in the last week or so that he wants a greater defensive challenge on a nightly basis. And this is something that Ray and I had been talking about this week. Is that the secret to getting Klay back to being Klay Thompson? And instead of talking about the pretty shot, it's getting back to that doggone defense to unlock really who he is as a basketball player.
I don't think there is a secret. I just think that it's just time, and as he gets more comfortable, he will be reminded that even when he was on top of his game a few years ago, there were still plenty of bad nights. I remember, there were one season he was like 3 for 34 or something to start the year. He was a mess.
Right. Then you guys went to Chicago.
Yeah, and he made 14 threes. I mean, but it wasn't the only time it happened. My point is that struggles are all part of the game. Steph had his a few weeks ago. Wiggs is going through his right now. Klay's going through one. But I think when you're out for 2.5 years, it's harder to remember that there were actually moments like that, a few years ago too, and it's all part of being an athlete at this level. There's a lot of ups and downs, and you have to navigate them. And if you get too stressed out about them, it's really hard to get through the long season. And I just think Klay wants it all back at once because it's been 2.5 years of hell, and who can blame him for wanting it back quickly? But it's just not the way it works. So he's just got to be patient and keep playing, and it's going to come.
You've now, after a long stretch where your defense was pretty problematic, you've had 2 games in a row where it has essentially won you difficult games. Is there a tell in a game where you can tell we're on it defensively, or can you not really be sure until the game is over and then you look back at it and go, yeah, we defended well? Is there something that within a game tells you we're going to be fine tonight?
Well, I felt that against the Clippers. You can tell with ball pressure. Our guys on the opponent dribbling wherever they want and just easily getting into offensive sets, or are you putting pressure on them? That's one way to tell. And then when you do put pressure on them and guys drive to the rim, is the rotation there to help? And those two things, to me, are a clear sign of successful night. So those were both there against the Clippers. I didn't think our defense was great last night until the final 5-7 minutes, somewhere in that, whatever that stretch was. Looney was just phenomenal on Jokic. I thought Bjelica did a really good job on him too during his time on the floor. But our first half defense was horrific. So it wasn't a perfect night, but we did enough to win.
You have been such a proponent of Kevon Looney, and you've supported him publicly when other people have said, isn't it time to look for some? It feels like this is the year where everyone gets it. This is the year where everyone understands who he is to this team, who he is to you specifically as a player, and what he does for the Warriors. And I don't think I've ever seen him as tired as he was in that game. 2 trips to Denver in the same week is rough on everyone. For the guy who has to have Jokic leaning on him, it's got to be hardest for him. This is the year where I think the Kevon Looney appreciation tour has officially begun, and that's got to make you happy.
Well, I hope that's the case. I know there's a lot of people in our building who have appreciated him for a long time. And, this is a guy who's played big minutes in big playoff games and has proven his ability to compete and defend at a really high level. He's our best screener. You've seen him now the last few games. He's really getting good as an offensive fulcrum, kind of in the Draymond role. Catching and going into dribble handoffs and reversing the ball. So he's added a lot, I think, to his game. But he makes a lot of the plays that most people don't realize. Just the subtle rotation, the subtle box out, the communication that you can't hear if you're in the stands, but you can hear it, if you're on the sidelines. He makes all of those plays. He's just a total pro, and he makes the game easier for everybody else as a result.
Is he content not to have to see Nikola Jokic for another month and a half at the minimum?
I think we all are, frankly. I mean, how good is that guy? It's really amazing to watch him play basketball. I mean, he's so skilled. I was thinking, I was met with the TNT crew last night, Stan Van Gundy and Brian Anderson, and Stan and I were talking about centers back in the day, and 20 years ago when I played, it was really a center era. A lot of Hall of Fame centers back then, and hard to come up with many, if any, centers that back then that were more talented or better players than Jokic. He's just special.
I saw a Twitter account that was just like celebrating old NBA performances and memories, and for whatever reason, they picked, let's take a look back at Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. And he had a game against the Chicago Bulls in the United Center where he was just unstoppable. I mean, he was hitting him from everywhere. And in the footage, while we're watching Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, oh, he was putting it on you, Steve. I mean, it was Steve Kerr, the coach, would have pulled Steve Kerr, the player, off the floor that night. Do you, without having seen the footage or expecting me to ask you this, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you still?
I remember it well. It was actually not at the United Center. It was in Denver.
Oh, okay.
And, I think he had 46 or something against us, and he torched me. He was actually probably the closest thing to Steph that we had back then. Just somebody who had that combination of off the dribble and off the catch range and touch. I mean, he was an incredibly gifted shooter, and he had it going that night. I had no chance.
The way you raced to point out that the game was in Denver led me to believe that you were going to try to use altitude as an excuse.
Oh, it was definitely a factor. I think I would have held him to 44.
Oh, Steve. So, look, again, it's amazing what a difference a week makes, and I know that there's quite a bit of talk to tweaked Steph Curry rotational minutes and when he is playing or when he isn't playing. Was all of that in this year really looking to just buy opportunities to get him fewer minutes as more than it was a strategical decision for the Golden State Warriors? Were you buying rest more than you were looking to buy a new strategy?
No. Are you talking about making the change now or what we were...
Yeah, the minutes that you had early and then the pattern that you're back to now.
The minutes we had early was actually harder to limit his minutes because what we were doing with his rotation was we were taking him out. We were starting him in the fourth quarter and then taking him out, around the 6 or 7 minute mark for 2 or 3 minutes. And we just had so many games where we were in a fight and we just felt like we can't take him out. We're going to lose the game if we take him out. And he'd end up playing 12 minutes of the fourth and, 39, 40 minutes overall. And that's just not smart for us to do that. So I didn't particularly like the old rotation from a minute standpoint. What I liked about it was that it kept all of our rotations pretty sound. And, we're playing 2 rookies. We're playing some young players. We've got a lot of injuries. So for a long time, it was necessary in order to keep our team afloat. But I feel great now with Steph kind of returning to his more favored rotation. I think it helps us with minutes, easier to get him rest in the middle of the game and still have him fresh in the fourth. And I think he's most comfortable playing in those minutes anyway.
Without resorting to direct quotes in a private conversation, how does the conversation go when you're trying to change his rotation and when you're trying to change it back? Does he come to you first and then you say, yes, absolutely? Or do you guys have a long discussion about it?
Usually it's me going to him saying, hey, what do you think about this? And him saying, sure, no problem, and that's about it. I mean, he might have a comment or two, he might say, how long do you think we'll do this? Or, what if we did this or did that? Maybe a tweak. When we talked about his old rotation of playing the whole first and third, he mentioned, well, what if we tweaked it a little bit? Maybe take me out late first, late third, then bring me back earlier in the fourth. And I said, I love that because we need him on the floor for more fourth quarter minutes, but we still need to rest him enough. So it's an easy conversation. Steph always does what's best for the team, and there's always a lot of genuine back and forth just to make sure we're on the same page.
You know what a disappointment it is to find out that you guys have never had a yelling match about that.
Well, Draymond and I make up for that. It works out well.
Okay.
More important for Draymond's psyche on Monday night, a win over the Bucks on Saturday or Michigan State getting past Wisconsin today in Indianapolis?
I think at this stage, as much as he loves Sparty, Draymond's a warrior. He wants to play and he wants to win. So we can't wait to get him back.
There you go. You worry about the other guy from Greece then. Don't worry about the Spartans or anything. The game against the Bucks obviously will be what we're all expecting, the last game, hopefully, God willing, without Draymond Green for the remainder of this season. And look, we know that James Wiseman is getting work in the G League, and there's a chance that he joins this team quickly as well. Andre Iguodala has been reported to be around the corner. Are you starting to see how the end of this year looks for you, and is it more reassuring than you thought just a couple weeks ago? It really looks like everything the Warriors were hoping to come together in the last 2 weeks is still out there for you guys to find.
It's definitely still out there, but there's a lot of work. Even if everybody's healthy, we have a lot of work to do to get better. We also have a lot of work to do to figure out who's going to play. We got a ton of guys who can play, ton of guys who are worthy of playing time down the stretch and into the playoffs. And then, James is so talented and gifted. We've got to give him a chance on the floor, but we also have to temper expectations too. So that means there's got to be some experimentation and we've got to look at some different lineups and combinations, but there are only 15 games left. So we're trying to do a lot of things at once.
Did you expect Moody to be a fly in the ointment? And I mean that in the best possible way.
We've been talking about Moody in our coaches' meetings every day for about 6 weeks because we've seen it coming in practices, in the G League games that he's played, just in his demeanor and his instincts, his questions. He's 19 going on 28. This guy is just so mature, and he's got great size and shoots the ball so well. So I saw it coming, but it probably took a little more time just to allow it to happen because of the changes that were already happening with our team, with the injuries and Kuminga playing more. It had to be the right time, and now it seems like the right time for Moses.
As a philosophical matter, as much as people on the outside like to yammer on and on about your rotations, does anybody really realize how much more fluid they are in real time when you're making decisions than they think it is? I mean, it seems like you're going to have almost as many rotations as you have games left.
Yeah. I mean, we go into every game with a rotation on paper, and it's really more of a kind of a guideline. But we tweak it pretty much every game based on, foul trouble, injury, production, whatever it is. And then you just adjust from there. The good news this year is we have a lot of options. So while it's difficult, to figure out exactly, who should we go to each night in every situation, the options are there for a lot of different combinations, and that's a good problem to have. We have a very deep team.
Looks like you got a combination of Steph, Klay, and Poole in a three-guard lineup that all of a sudden is intriguing you more than just a month ago.
Yeah, those three guys are really playing well together. It's great analytically, just the numbers are showing it, but really, just watching it unfold. You have the secondary playmaker with Jordan, so that if people are blitzing Steph and they get the ball out of his hands, Jordan can make the next play. Obviously, the great shooting from all three guys, and it'll be interesting to get when we get Draymond back how he factors into all this, and if we go that route with those three guys and Draymond. You could picture Loon out there in a more defensive lineup. You could see Wiggs out there in a more offensive lineup. But again, a lot of possibilities. As
one of the best free throwers ever, coaching one of the greatest free throwers ever, what can you give to Wiggins to help him out of his slump right now at the line?
Well, he's been working with Jama, one of our development coaches, and sometimes free throws are about technique, and sometimes they're just about mindset. And I think at this point, it's probably more mindset. His free throw looks fine to me. He's not. Sometimes you can see a major flaw that's keeping a guy from making shots. If he has any adjustment to make, it's a minor one. So there are other times where you just lose a little confidence, and you got to kind of get your confidence back.
So I know this is going to make Ray roll his eyes as I wrap this up, but you've talked about playing with joy, and that's something that was hard to find. Obviously, joy is not usually walking down the street with rough patches and winning and losing streaks. But it feels like the joy got back this week. From the Jackie Moon warm-up through the games that we've seen, from the defense that you're playing, like it feels good again. And basketball's a feeling as much as anything. So keep it up. Have a great homestand. I know you got a 4-gamer here starting with Milwaukee on Saturday, and we look forward to this team being at full strength and knife sharpened real soon, Steve. Thank you for joining us, and a Mahmoud Abdul Rauf to you.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.